Cars are once again piling up on dealership lots. That terrible audio I actually recorded for over 40 minutes and then went to edit, and I realized, well, I had selected from my travels my microphone on my MacBook Pro instead of my beautiful microphone that we have right here. Now we have proper audio and hopefully my voice can hold up. But guys, cars are piling up on lots, and check this out. The day supply has gone up about 22 days in a month. And we're going to break this down today, but that's not it. One of the biggest things in automotive regulation history has just taken place. There is no more auto emission standards. Diesels, V8s, are they coming back? We're going to talk about that in depth today. EV registrations have fallen for the first time in a decade in the United States. EVs are shrinking. It's so comical. We're going to break down this graph today. Almost everyone is just in the complete dumps with EVs. There's just very little natural demand, especially when you take out the EV tax credit, which spurred artificial demand. All right. And then, guys, holy cow, Nissan and Honda. I already got fired up. I talked about this probably longer than any other topic on today's video. This is going to be so much fun to break down. Japanese automakers, Honda and Nissan, they're still trying to find ways to work together, but they got so close cutting a deal on trucks and things like that. And then it all fell apart. Okay, and lastly, diesel's making a comeback. Not only in the United States, it could make a big comeback because of emissions regulations disappearing, but Stellantis resurrects diesel cars. 7 of them in Europe because EVs sell like crap, are too expensive, X, Y, and Z. People, no one wants them. Okay, so guys, if you're excited for today's content, my name's Kirk. I cover automotive news probably more than anyone else here on YouTube. I upload just about every single day a review cars. I have a Lexus LC500 out there, my last chance with that car because it is being discontinued. I have a Subaru Forester Wilderness to review this week. I have upcoming EV driving impressions from Toyota coming next week, and then later this month. And then also my driving impressions for the Mazda CX-5 will be coming up on the 23rd. All right, so what's going on here? The auto market, cars sitting around on lots has gone up, which costs manufacturers more to incentivize cars. It costs the dealers more to keep the cars on the lot with insurance and other stocking fees. Okay, so the automotive industry has slowed down 4% from January 2025, and it's down 22% from December. It's a lot. So the day supply is 98, and it was 76 the month before. Now, this article suggests the industry is structurally healthier than last month's winter's elevated stock environment, even as current month shows clear signs of short-term slowing. So market's slowing, but there's less inventory. Why is there less inventory? Well, there's less freaking EV sitting around for months, costing the dealers and the manufacturers tons of money to incentivize. I saw something like the Honda Prologue costs like, I don't know, 15 grand to incentivize or more to sell it. So it's a healthier environment because you have less turds or lot rot sitting around on the lot that people won't buy. Okay, but things are still slowing, especially with certain models. Okay, so yes, Nissan slowed 12%. Toyota slowed 25%. Honda slowed 17%. Okay, Honda and Kia down 23 to 11%. Okay, so things are slowing down. And here's the day supply. Toyota, Lexus, Honda, on average, are still operating in their own bubbles. And the day supply here, gosh, these brands on the right are just burning through money. Okay, trying to get their cars sold. No one's buying their cars. No, and Chrysler is so bad, they're off the map. Okay, so it's crazy. So major vehicle models, guys, this is probably the best time ever to buy a Camry or Corolla. When I looked, I could find Corollas, the LE. I only really recommend the Camry. I only really recommend the base Camry because they have the most comfortable seats in the lineup. And you can still option it with a heated seat and heated steering wheel. But the Camry LE, 60 miles per gallon, at least in my testing, you can get it for 26 grand, about $5,000 off of MSRP. That's in my area, Southwest Florida, but there are tons. The availability is enormous on the Camry. Also, it might be the best time ever to buy something like an Altima, dirt cheap, okay, and Ford F-Series, which Ford F-Series have slowed to 30%. Okay, their sales have slowed massively. It's very fascinating, but we need to keep moving. Trump revokes basis of U.S. climate regulation. Okay, pretty much saying the world is not getting sicker. The world is not ending because of CO2. That's what he's saying. I'm not saying that. Okay. And as a result, he's like, okay, this is only stagnating our economy. It's hurting the automakers that have to spend billions of dollars of certifying these powertrains. Okay, so auto emission standards have been completely thrown out the window. Now, there will be blowback from certain agencies suing, maybe certain states suing, like California, of course. This is, I think, a breath of fresh air. Ironically, I might be choking on diesel emissions here shortly, but it allows cars to be produced more affordably because they don't need to be certified for emissions anymore, which is a very lengthy and costly process. It allows for true powertrain demand from the customer instead of what the government's telling these manufacturers to make. Cars will be developed faster as a result because they don't have to certify for exhaust emissions. You might be saying, Kirk, we're all going to die. We're going to choke on emissions. Well, I don't think so. I still think the natural demand for things like hybrids are going to skyrocket. And hybrids are really, really a massive improvement over ICE or diesel. Could you imagine a diesel hybrid truck? That would be interesting. It'd be probably exorbitantly not expensive, but efficient. Why do locomotives run on diesel hybrids? Anyways, we're going to see more V8s enter the market and less turbo engines. Thank God. More naturally aspirated engines. Thank God. If you want turbo, go get it. But like, they're really expensive. There's more maintenance. You typically have to put premium fuel in them, etc. Okay, so V8s are going to return. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Okay, less turbo models and hybrid demand will continue to grow and grow and grow. So you might be saying, Kirk, this is we're all going to die because of emissions. I would say we could all die from emissions from making battery packs as well, these massive battery packs for battery electrics. Just because there are no tailpipe emissions doesn't mean that people in China are not choking on all the byproduct of producing these electric motors. Well, there are electric motors and hybrids, but refining these elements and these minerals for batteries at a massive scale, digging out of the earth, which costs a lot of CO2, but also the manufacturing and putting these batteries together, it creates tons and tons of emissions, insane amount of emissions, just so you don't have tailpipe emissions. Okay, and it takes a long time for it to catch up with a gas car, and like a gas car is better for the environment up until maybe 60,000 miles, and that's just CO2. That's not talking about how much damage you're doing to the earth with all this mining. EVs are not better for the environment, in my opinion. In some ways they are, in some ways they are not. And they're very heavy. They're harder on tires due to their torque and heft. They're very expensive. This is good. EVs can continue to be built and sold, and hybrids will continue to be built and sold and sold. And then you're going to have reintroduction of what people want for trucks, which is V8s, and what people want for performance cars, which are lots of cylinders or V8s. Or, people are going to have their choice. The market is now going to be able to speak freely in theory, at least for now. Now, the courts could reverse this. When Trump gets out, is he going to be replaced by, a Republican or a Democrat? If a Democrat gets back in, who knows? Maybe they would keep the policies the same, but more than likely, they would get in because they are, they follow the other side of the coin, which is electrify everything. Even though we don't have a supply or infrastructure here in the United States for that. We don't even have like hardly any lithium here. Electrify everything to the nth degree, really high emission standards, etc. Okay, but that has hurt our automobile market, I would say. Okay, so I see this as more of a free market, an open market, but air could become dirtier in specific places that are affected by smog, like Denver and LA. So it could be worse for those areas, but it's not like emissions are going to go backwards. Okay. They're going to just kind of maintain where they are right now. I would say, I don't think it's going to go backwards, meaning I don't think air is going to get dirtier than it is now. I think it's only going to improve because of the adoption and demand for hybrids, which are very good for the environment compared to a traditional gas car. Okay. As long as the batteries aren't too big and X, Y, and Z, but hybrids are very, very good. Okay, so this is good news in my opinion, allowing for a more free market, faster car development, cheaper car development, and true buyer choice. This is good. People get to choose now what kind of powertrain that they can have, whether it's rolling coal on people or a BEV or any sort of hybrid, or what kind of performance car you want. Okay, this could help manual gearboxes too, because they're in theory not quite as efficient as a 10-speed auto or whatever it is. So this is great news in my opinion, because it allows for more variety of choice and more affordability long term. You might be saying, Kirk, we're all going to die of emissions. I don't think so. I don't think so. Anyways, we're going to keep moving. EVs fall for the first time in a decade. Okay, it is now only 7.8% of the market. In 2024 is 8% of the market. December, sales fell almost 50% on EVs. And let's just look at this graph here. Tesla, down 35%. Look at it. Tesla still just owns the market, even though everyone I talk to just about, oh, I hate Elon. Elon's crazy. He's a Nazi. He's this, he's that, blah, blah, blah. I don't give a crap what Elon is. I don't watch the news. All right. I just see what everyone's reactions are. All right. And I think some people have said, like, regardless, I'm not buying Elon. I'm not buying a relationship with Elon. This is how a rational person should think. You should be able to remove your opinions of Elon from the car. If the car is everything you want it to be, then buy the freaking car. I've also known people on the other side of the coin who are like, I'm not going to eat at this restaurant because they support Planned Parenthood or whatever it is. I know I'm getting a bit political here, but I have to because we're talking about Tesla. Okay, and so they won't eat at that restaurant because some of those pros. I'm like, that's out of your control. That's not you directly contributing to that institution's whatever tax donation, whatever they're doing. Okay. If you like the food, just eat the food. Don't overthink things. Don't overcomplicate things. This life is too short for that, and you can't control everything. So just enjoy what you can enjoy. If you really want a Tesla, but you hate Elon, who gives a flying F? Just go buy a Tesla. All right. And the market is showing that even though the market's down 35%, Tesla is still complete command of the EV market, and it's not even close. Guys, how many, like 42,000, and I would have to add all these up, okay, all these numbers in December, but they don't equal 42,000. All these small pieces of the pie that are also shrinking, unless you're Cadillac, who introduced more EVs, unless you're Lucid, who introduced the Gravity, finally a crossover, unless you're Lexus, who actually has some availability right now in the RZ. Okay, almost everyone's down on EVs, and EVs are going to continue to shrink, I would say, because no EV tax credit. And the manufacturer is no longer having to spend billions of dollars in developing EVs and selling EVs in a market that is not ready for EVs or does not want EVs for whatever reason. Am I fired up? You betcha. It's about ready to get guys, you might need to take a potty break. It's about ready to get out of control. I've been speaking like that because I already recorded for 40 minutes, fired up. Now I'm getting into this topic here, and Nissan, Honda cannot agree on freaking anything. Nothing is getting done. You always say, Kirk, it fell apart about a year ago when the merger fell apart. Yes, but they're still like, hey, we're going to collab on software-defined vehicles. We're going to collab on this and that. We're still going to find ways to work together. And here we are a year later. And it's like, if anything, the relationship continues to get worse. It's not like they had a great relationship anyways, but the merger almost happened. Okay, but there are reasons why it didn't happen. I'll explain in this video why. They've said that they've wanted to work together in autonomous driving, US production, okay, but they cannot see eye to eye on those two things. You know, many are saying that collaboration is vital for both of these companies, which are far behind those of compatriot Toyota. Everyone's behind Toyota. Everyone. I don't care if you say like, EV manufacturers in China, they're past Toyota when it comes to manufacturing. Okay, there's going to be some areas that the Chinese are doing better than Toyota. All right, but Toyota's still the benchmark until they're not. Their day supply is lower than everyone else. Their reliability is still probably better on average. There are exceptions than everyone else. Okay, their desirability, their sales numbers just broke an all-time sales record. They are the most profitable automaker in the world. Okay, even above Hyundai and Kia motor groups. Toyota is still the benchmark. Honda and Nissan are like way down in terms of profitability and variety of product and overall desirability for their products. So Nissan's going to post more than likely a $4.25 billion loss this fiscal year. Second straight year of losses. Honda, it has had 4 straight quarters of operating losses. And that's same for the automobile segment. You got to zoom out because Honda is more than just an automobile company. They're primarily a motorbike company. They have almost a 20% profit margin when it comes to motorbikes around the world. And that spurs their other brands. Honda's Rocket program's not making money. Honda's Jet program's probably not making money. Their Marine program, maybe. They have a V8 in the Marine program. Their motorcycles fund every aspect of Honda's business. Without motorcycles, Honda, everything else is completely irrelevant or even completely gone. They would not exist. Honda started with motorbikes, and that has remained its core even till today. So they say talks with Honda has been constructive. Well, when I say they, I mean Ivan Espinosa, who I had an interview with at the Japan Mobility Show. So if you want to see that video where we sat down and talked this past fall, go ahead and check that out. But he sees it very positive and constructive. Things are moving forward. All right. How can we collaborate in North America? That's what the big issue at hand is. According to a source familiar with the situation, Honda is considering supplying engines for hybrid vehicles for Nissan in the United States, where U.S. government's turn away from EVs has boosted demand for hybrids. Now, this is not as descriptive of a sentence I need to form an opinion here because, well, here's the deal. Honda can't even supply enough hybrids for their own lineups. No hybrids in the Acura lineup. No hybrids on the HR-V, no hybrids on their large platform vehicles. So while they have hybrids on the Accord, the Civic, and the CR-V, they need to electrify everything in their lineup, or at least have an electrified option in their lineup. So Honda can't even provide the hybrids for their own lineups. But if we step back, okay, if this is just engines, the 4-cylinder engine for hybrid vehicles, not the whole 2-motor hybrid setup, etc., okay, then we have a different conversation. Why would Nissan need a Honda engine for their hybrid? Nissan might not have the right engine technology and production yet here in North America for their e-Power. Now, Nissan's e-Power is coming out this year. It will debut in the new Rogue, which it has been leaked. I don't know if I'll make a video on the leaked images of the new Rogue. Maybe I will. So it will be revealed this summer, the new Rogue e-Power, their version of a hybrid. It's a series hybrid. And then we're going to have it available by the end of this year. However, maybe all those components and engines initially come over from Japan, okay, which is going to be hit with tariffs. So maybe Honda could supply gasoline engines. It doesn't seem like it's going to work though. Like, I really don't think Nissan needs Honda's engines. Nissan has just developed a new 1.5 turbo, I think it's a 4-cylinder engine for their e-Power hybrid on the Rogue. And that new engine is developed exclusively to be used in hybrid situations. So it's really, really efficient as a generator. Okay. Honda's engine is also 99% of the time just a generator in their hybrid setup. So maybe Nissan, it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't see it as beneficial for either of them. Honda can't supply enough hybrids for their own cars, but maybe Honda has more production capacity for that engine than hybrid availability. There's other bottlenecks in the hybrid system, whether it's battery packs or the hybrid transaxle with the motors built in. That could be in limited supply, so they can't build enough hybrids. All right, maybe they can ramp up engine supply to be able to supply Nissan. It's fascinating, but I don't think it's necessary. Nissan's lack of hybrids in North America has been a factor for its sluggish sales. I agree. The company plans to introduce plug-in hybrid of its Rogue, which is right here. It's just a Mitsubishi Outlander. It's not good. It's too expensive. The engine whine is too loud on it. Like, it's not good. Just go get a RAV4 plug-in hybrid for about the same price, and has more power, has more range, it's more efficient. It doesn't have as good as all-wheel drive as this, but it's way quieter. Like, this is nowhere close to as good as the Toyota plug-in hybrid. All right. So anyways, Nissan's hybrid technology has been seen as poorly suited for large vehicles such as pickup trucks. Honda's is a better fit. Supplying engines to Nissan would boost Honda's own profits. This makes zero sense to me. This line makes zero sense to me. How could Honda's hybrids be better for Nissan trucks than Nissan's own powertrains? Honda doesn't even have a truck. They have no body on frame vehicle. They haven't sent maybe the first gen Passport, which is actually a bad rebadge to Isuzu. Okay, So this line makes no sense. Nissan's developing their own hybrids for their next gen body on frame platform coming in 2028. Okay, with the new Xterra, the Pathfinder, etc. There's a lot of cars. The new Frontier will be on it, as well as Infinity variants. Nissan's developing its own hybrid tech. Why? Like, Honda doesn't have a V6 hybrid for their own large platform vehicles. They don't have one. That's supposed to come maybe in 2027, maybe. So this line just makes no sense. Neither of them have any hybrids right now for large platform vehicles. Both currently have good hybrids for medium to small size vehicles, whether that's, the Civic to the Qashqai in other markets, right? Their hybrids are suited for smaller vehicles, both of them. So this line makes no sense. Just gets me fired up. Both automakers agree on overall direction, but they can't agree on any of the details. They're like, okay, well, we need more hybrids. We need better software-defined vehicles, and we need autonomous driving. But they can't agree on any of those three things. On software-defined vehicles, Honda and Nissan agreed on the idea of sharing technology to minimize investment needed to have held talks on specific areas such as operating systems. Okay, so for example, Nissan EVs could use Honda's new Osmo OS. That would make sense. Okay, but the agreement has proven more elusive in self-driving vehicles. Okay, so maybe they can agree on operating systems, but they can't agree on autonomous driving or ADAS systems or even self-driving. So an insider said both want to integrate really badly here, but they have completely different philosophies in autonomous driving. Nissan wants to partner up with the UK startup Wave Technologies to develop systems capable of hands-free driving on city streets. So think of it as full self-driving, like Tesla's full self-driving. And they want to commercialize this by 2027. Wave's technology is something that conventional automakers do not have. So teaming up with them early is the best move, said Nissan. Yeah. Partner up with a specialist when it comes to software. Like, this is not something most automakers can do on their own. Even Toyota is teaming up with lots of different software companies to incorporate their expertise into self-driving vehicles. Okay, even Toyota. Honda, meanwhile, is sticking with its tradition of in-house development, aiming to bring its own technology onto the market in fiscal 2027. And this statement here from a Honda executive explains why Honda can't work with anyone. They tried to work with General Motors. That was a bad idea for lots of different reasons. Everyone said that was going to be a bad idea. Okay. They're trying to work with Nissan here. Since Nissan wasn't willing to bend the knee in every aspect of Honda's executive management philosophy and like whatever else, they didn't, like, it just completely fell apart because of that. Because if Honda can't do it ourselves, it's meaningless. If that's not pride, stubbornness, and not just living in a world, they're living in their own world. Okay, what else is it? That is pride. And I understand that if doing it yourself brings uniqueness, I agree. Doing things yourself provides an identity. Doing things yourself provides control, okay, over the outcome entirely. But doing things yourself also can provide stagnation and lack of innovation, and also make things very costly. Look at their EV investments. It's costing them so much money because they're trying to do it on their own. They are not interested in working with other automakers, seemingly with anything. They'll work with suppliers and other parts of the supply chain and be more integrated that way, but they will not work with competitors because it is meaningless to do it with other people because they cannot do them in themselves. All right. So when Nissan said, hey, we're not going to scrap our hybrid technology just because you, Honda, if we were to merge because you don't see it as valuable, this isn't going to work. And Honda's like, yeah, it's not going to work because your hybrid systems aren't as good as ours. They're too expensive compared to ours. And who knows how much more expensive. Their batteries are bigger. That's the only thing I can think of. Nissan's batteries and e-power is roughly twice the size of Honda's batteries. So maybe their hybrid systems cost $250 to $500 more. But when you scale that up, that's a lot of money. okay, over tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of units. Okay, so if you don't do it our way, Nissan, if you don't become just a badge under the Honda umbrella, then this isn't going to work. You have to do everything we say. If you don't do it how we do it, this is meaningless. Honda's view is that it should work to establish technology in-house, getting involved in semiconductor and software development. I mean, that's kind of how Tesla did it. But Tesla wasn't a car company. They were a software company that became a car company, really. Honda's a car company that's trying to become a software company. You're going from analog to digital. It's almost impossible to do without gajillions of dollars investments, as we're seeing Honda waste. Teaming up with someone is the only answer in today's world. It's actually been the only answer since the beginning of time. Collaboration is the only way things can exist. And there's different levels of collaboration, but humanity's meant for relationship and love and communication and sharing, okay, and growing. The environment's always growing, but it's never in isolation of other species, of other animals or other, plants and other ecosystems, right? It's all, everything's synergistic. And Honda is burying their head into the sand saying, if we don't do it ourselves, it's meaningless. It's not going to work well for Honda, and it has not been working well for Honda with that philosophy. Look at what's happening in China. They're shrinking faster than any other Japanese automaker because they're refusing to work with the powers that are in China. Yes, they have joint ventures. Okay, that's point aside. But they're still doing it through a very Honda-specific lens. Honda's behind in ADAS in China. It's behind in technology, user interface. They're behind in battery electric price competitiveness. Okay, their EVs are way too expensive compared to what Nissan and Toyota offer, let alone BYD and the Chinese Xiaomi, etc. Honda cannot do it on their own. And I don't know if they'll ever not do it on their own, because that's been since Soichiro's, maybe his philosophy, but that philosophy cannot exist. You might be saying, Kirk, what about Sony? They partnered up with Sony and then also still buried their head in the sand, because Sony and Honda, they created their own car company that no one wants and too expensive. Why couldn't they worked with Sony for the betterment of all of their brands, existing brands such as Honda and Acura? That's pride from not only Sony and Honda, but Honda too. Look where it's going to get them. It's dead on arrival, or it's dead before arrival. The Afeela cars. Why couldn't they have integrated with Sony's technology, sensors, cameras, and found a way between the two of them to come up with software-defined vehicles and autonomous driving? Hello? What are we doing here? Why? What are we doing here? It's like the pride of Honda was so great, they didn't want Sony to affect their mass market Honda or Acura vehicles. They're like, okay, let's do this, but let's hedge our bets and let's not affect what our core is, but let's just put it away in a super expensive exclusive Sony PlayStation Honda car that no one wants to buy because it's $100,000. What's the point of having the best autonomous driving, the best cameras and sensors in the world if it is not accessible? What's the point? What are we doing here? But it gets worse. It gets worse. Both, if they were to partnership with self-driving vehicles, which it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen barring a miracle. If they were, it might not be at the earliest to 2030. But guys, they're not even working together now with autonomous vehicles. How would they have a self-driving car by 2030 if they're not even working together now? You know how hard it is of a self-driving vehicle? How expensive it is? It's not going to happen. As a result, it becomes less necessary to reach agreements and make announcements related to software-defined vehicles as a whole early on. That's just like a self-fulfilling prophecy. They're like, okay, well, since we're not going to have autonomous driving by 2030, let's not even make agreements in other parts of business. So it's just never going to happen. They're not investing in each other. They're not seeing eye to eye, and they're never going to work together at this point. And what's even more frustrating is this right here. Nissan has underused production capacity in North America, whether it's Mexico or Camp, Mississippi or Smyrna, Tennessee. Okay, they have 3 major plants after closing a few plants in Mexico, but they have lots of underutilized production capacity. All right, you don't want underutilized production capacity because it reduces efficiency and it increases costs. Okay, so you need about 70% production capacity to make a profit minimum at a plant. What we're seeing is Nissan well below that. And that's why they had to close 7 out of 17 plants around the world. It's officially done. All 7 plants are done. None of them here in the United States, luckily or good and thankfully, because they need it to survive the tariff situation. All right, so Nissan has all this underutilized production capacity. Meanwhile, Honda is maxed out of production capacity. All their plants in Canada, Mexico, United States, they're all at like near or at full production capacity, unless they work on the weekends, unless they work more on the holidays, unless they work an extra shift here and there. They don't have any more room to grow stateside. Honda, why not partner with Nissan to work something out so that both of them can benefit and reduce costs and use, the available production that is just not being used. But last summer, negotiations on making Honda pickup trucks at Nissan facilities, Canton, Mississippi specifically, it had advanced almost to the final stages. It was almost a done deal. Like, it was almost checkmate for Honda and Nissan to build trucks out of Canton, Mississippi. And it went as far as discussing specific models. Guys, let me tell you, a Frontier and a Ridgeline, same truck, built by Nissan, but they look different, right? Okay. You have, let's say, the Xterra and the Passport. Pretty freaking cool, right? You'd have a Pilot and a Pathfinder. And they're all body on frame, by the way. Something that Honda has been needing here in the United States forever. Expertise and more rugged body on frame trucks and truck SUVs. They've needed this, all right? And it almost was done. It was almost a sealed deal. But the automakers looked into actual logistics, their production equipment, and supply chains. It turned out to mesh poorly, providing little incentive to move forward. I don't freaking get it. Here's the thing. Both of these automakers have allegiances and familiarity and history with their suppliers. Okay. So Honda could see as well. So that's like logistics. Oh, you want to work with this supplier for your sound system? Nah, no, we're sticking with Bose, or we're sticking with this company. Okay. Or it could be screen supplier. Oh, we only work with Panasonic for a screen, or whatever it is, right? I'm not 100% sure without having more detail with the logistics of it. Their production equipment. Now, what the heck does this mean? This might mean Nissan's production equipment and maybe that platform doesn't meet Honda's standards of safety or ergonomics or whatever it is. The production facilities did not meet Honda's standards. Okay, or maybe that's build quality too. And supply chains again. Okay, so that goes back to maybe I was talking more about supply chain than I was logistics. Okay, logistics might be shipping or sourcing of, I don't know. I just don't know. Okay, but it didn't work out. And they didn't strike a deal, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard for Honda. It's so stupid. I have no other words for it. This is a bad decision. What could hurt? How could it hurt Honda here to have Nissan build them body on frame vehicles? How could it hurt them? I don't understand. That's exactly what Honda has been missing in America that does well in America, which is body on frame. That's why you look at Hyundai and Kia. Hyundai and Kia, they have just about every product under the sun for every niche. And they've just admitted that this Santa Cruz pickup truck was a complete failure. It was unibody, it didn't have a hybrid, it was too funky looking. They failed on every regard with the Santa Cruz Hyundai, but they learned. And they're like, okay, we're going to commit to a body on frame pickup truck to go against the Tacoma, the Frontier, the Colorado, the Ranger. Hyundai and Kia, they're going to do it. They're going to have body on frame vehicles. And it's not just truck, they'll probably have SUVs too. And you have Honda here saying, oh, Nissan, you would like to build some Honda badge trucks and SUVs? Oh, yeah, but your quality isn't where we like it to be. It's not going to work. It's like, come on, what are you doing? Honda, you're not exactly like thriving here. You just posted 4 straight quarters of losses because you want to do everything on your own and developing EVs, from software to controlling the battery supply chain to refusing to work with whatever it is. Okay. It's just, they have this mentality. If we don't do it ourselves, it's meaningless. And here's Nissan like throwing themselves seemingly at Honda saying, hey, what about this? we can work together here. It'll reduce these costs, maybe X, Y, and Z. Okay, and provide you product that you don't currently have. And hey, we'll even buy some engines from you if we need to. Like it seems like, and maybe it's just me being frustrated at Honda, but it just seems like Nissan is trying to offer solutions, and Honda's like, here, this is where their headspace is. How can you even have a conversation if the executives from Honda, this is where their mindset is? How can anything progress with collaboration with others, with surviving in a market that's constantly changing? Nissan's used to working with partnerships, although abusive ones. Nissan, you could say, was completely whored out and abused by Renault and bossed around. They had zero say in the company. Nissan had zero say with partner Renault from France. They're used to sharing platforms. They're used to sharing engine production. They're used to collaborating. That's a part of their identity in the past 20, 30, 40 years, Nissan. Okay. And Honda's never had to collaborate with anyone, really, if you think about it, because this is what led Honda to being so successful potentially, but this could also lead Honda to destruction if this is truly their philosophy in more ways than one. Wow, this hurts. It hurts a lot to see these two brands just not being able to see eye to eye. Stellantis, lastly, resurrects diesel cars across Europe. 7 diesel models are now back on the table in Europe because EVs, not only are the demand low or not where they thought they would be, all right, they're expensive. They don't have the supply chain for it, etc. Okay, so we're seeing a shift back to reality, seemingly, for actual demand and supplying products that meet actual demand, whether it's at the car level with Stellantis here, at the manufacturer level, saying it's just time, guys. It's time to stop making cars how the government. It's like, so be it if we're fine. At least we can sell cars. At least we can sell cars. Maybe it's at a loss. Maybe it's like, but they're like, doing it how the government wants us to do it is just complete failure. All right. And then meanwhile, in the United States, the wild west of car production is coming back. We're seeing a relaxing of all the restrictions that have made cars so expensive and have made cars so synonymous with other brands because they all have to be turboed to meet emissions regulations. True choice is coming back in the United States. True choice might not ever be a thing in Europe, okay? But it seems like some logic is prevailing, especially with when they say, hey, gasoline engines are no longer being killed by 2035 in Europe. They're going to be allowed. That's just step one. It needs to keep widening for the European auto market to even survive. Tariffs on Chinese cars are still too low in Europe. It's going to keep destroying from the outside in. Okay, well, you could say the inside out because of legislation destroying the European auto market. Legislation has destroyed it, forcing super strict emissions regs, forcing EV adoption, forcing with all these incentives, pushing the envelope for EVs, even though true demand is not where the government thought it was, seeing fully battery electric by 2035. The automakers are finally standing up for themselves in Europe, seeing that they will no longer exist if this continues on the way it is. And it could be that bad. It could have been that bad in the United States if things kept going towards EVs too. China's the only one in the world that will succeed with EVs on a massive scale in the near term. They have the supply chain for it. They have all the minerals. They have all the refinement of the minerals. They have the production. No one's going to beat China with EVs, at least on a cost perspective. Nobody. We'll see where this goes. Hopefully logic prevails in Europe, but I wouldn't get my hopes up for it, to be honest. Okay, this is a sign in the right direction, but there's always a cost, and that cost is, hey, air could get dirtier, especially in some places. But I don't think it's going to get dirtier again. I think the air, at the very least, will maintain the same, if not better, in smog inflicted areas. It'll be about the same what it is right now than what it has been. Because like I said, true hybrid organic demand is so high, and hybrids, as they expand and production and sales volume and control of more of the market, emissions will continue to go down. will continue to go down. And the more hybrids you make, the less they cost due to scaling of production. It's very fascinating what's happening. And then in the near term, though, all the legislation has got us to some crazy places. And cars are way too expensive. They're sitting around on lots. You can still get good deals on certain models. And the car market's going to be down in 2026 in the US. There's no doubt about it, in my opinion. I would love to be wrong. I'd love to see a healthier market. A healthier market, in theory, means a healthier economy in the US and throughout the world. But I'm just not seeing it. I'm not seeing the reprieve from cost. I'm not seeing the reprieve from finance. I'm not seeing the reprieve from insurance rates, which have surged more than any other cost since the pandemic. All right. So yippee, guys. I'll see you in the comments. Let's get to editing this, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.